Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti a Adria. Welcome to the fifth round of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and SYNETIQ BMW Series here in the virtual surroundings of the Veneto region in northern Italy, around about an hour or so's drive from Venice Marco Polo Airport. Alex Goldschmidt and David Christie, your official commentators. Good evening, David. How are you?
All right, Chips. Every week we get that wonderful multilingual introduction from yourself, Alex, and you're still not getting anything more than an all right, Chips from me. I am very, very well, and this is one of the most exciting weeks for me. I am so looking forward to tonight's race at Adria. What a cracking little circuit. So,
free practice is underway. Good evening to Edward Porter via the Simply Race YouTube channel. We're broadcasting all across the internet on the eTeam BRIT Facebook page, on the Simply Race, also on the eTeam BRIT Twitch channel. We are also on Simply Race YouTube and Twitch, Virtual Reality Racing Club, Let's Race, Thrill Seekers, and so much more. But David, we have got a really interesting circuit. We've gone from one extreme to another. We've gone from 13.26 kilometres all the way down to just over 1.7 miles. And I think there was a cheeky message from Matt Richards, our current points leader, saying that, hang on, have they actually put the karting track on? And the funny thing is that for those that know Adria International Raceway, that hosted the inaugural TCR Europe Trophy, it actually is right adjacent to the karting track, and that is very, very different. But it's a different challenge here now. And we were talking in the previous show this morning about how different this circuit is going to be. It is going to be a true test, and it is about survival of the fittest. It isn't about keeping it smooth, because we've got some new names coming in, but in many respects, David, it's going to be a tall order over the next hour.
The wonderful thing about this, and we spoke a little bit about this in the preview show, this is going to be wild. This is going to be one of the wildest races that we're going to have over the season. The track is so short. It is, you know, it's almost not Hill-esque in terms of how short it is, but it will absolutely deliver. It doesn't have much in the way of elevation change, and you know, he's absolutely right to make that comparison to a karting track. I said so as well. It just has that feel. It has that like nip and tuck feel where you're constantly on the throttle, on the brake, turning the wheel, on the throttle again, and it's just this constant excitement on track.
And there you can actually see in the background, thanks to Mike Yao from Simply Race, our broadcast director, that is the Adria Karting Raceway that I have actually commentated at, but I've never commentated at the circuit. So this evening, it's a bit of a double standard, because I get to commentate on the circuit, but virtually speaking. However, we have to take a look back at Le Mans, our double points round. So without further ado, let's have a look at the highlights from Circuit de la Sarthe. substitute driver in the form of Lewis McGlade, who is going to be running under the same number. He was one of the commentators alongside Chris McCarthy for the recent Le Mans 24-hour virtual, and he's also the lead commentator in the Virtual Endurance Championship. He's also running in the BMO Touring Car UK Championship with Zansho Simsport, and he's currently running 6th after the first 5 rounds. We've also got no Dave Martin in the SYNETIQ BMWs, but Anthony Jordan. Those that might be familiar with Simply Race, he's commentated for them. He's also a commentator and a presenter, and he thinks he's a bit of a dab hand behind the sim wheel as well. So let's see how he gets on the SYNETIQ BMW series in the number 40. But just looking at the points at the moment, David, it's getting really, really interesting now, because at the moment, Joe Vrolijk, as we said in the preview show this morning, has got an opportunity to get himself a bit closer to Richards and Butcher this time here in Adria.
He does, but he's going to have to take that opportunity there, Alex, and at the moment he's not looking like he's got the pace to do it right now. Currently 8th place in practice at the moment with a 1:13.7. That's about a second or so behind your first 4 cars, so really he's going to want to be up on fighting for a podium position now. However, what I will say is Joey Vrolijk is one of the hardest chargers in the pack. He will fight tooth and nail to get up to that podium position, so don't discount him, but I am a little bit concerned that he's not shown the pace early on.
Very, very true, and we saw some fantastic opportunities, and the phrases that David came out with, as did I last week. So like, when he did that move and you just went, did I just see that happen? I mean, it was like we both had to do a double take, but he's really brought this championship alive in terms of dynamic overtaking, throwing it around the outside, 3 wide down the Mulsanne straights, but it's going to be a different tool order here. In terms of the SYNETIQ BMW series, it is Martin Buchan in the 35, leading the way on 78 points ahead of Christian Kelly, Louis Stewart, Ben Hetherington and Dave Martin, who the latter not being with us here this evening, but Anthony Jordan will run in the number 40 itself. But without further ado, let's have a look at the entries for this week here at Adria International Raceway. So first up, GT3s. And so we'll have Matt Richards, Daniel Handover, Daniel Brewer will be replaced by Sean King, Chris Butcher, then Sandro Ballesteros and Bradley Brockies from eTeam BRIT will be racing this week. However, we have to give a big shout out to Bobby Trundley and Andy Tucker, who were at Brands Hatch this weekend, going trackside out on circuit in real life for the very first time this season at Britcar. So all the very best of luck, guys. We look forward to seeing you next time out at Fuji. Then it's Max Spooner. We're not too sure about where Mark Lanau is, but obviously he's got time zones to negotiate. Then we've got Lewis McGlade in the 33, replacing John Munro for this round. And alongside him, as always, the stalwart Ross McGregor in the number 3. And then we should have a few more entries coming through, which will be Joey Vrolijk. Amongst with that, Daniel Hyde, and replacing Ed Sibbald, who has now decided to leave the championship, has now been replaced by the Cadan Casual Apex team boss, Phil Webb. And I will get to your question in just a moment, Ed Porter. Now we head to the GT3s as Joey Vrolijk completes the lineup for this round here in Italy. So it's the SYNETIQ BMW series. Ben Hetherington, Louis Stewart, we've got Christian Kelly showing up in the entry list, Martin Buchan, the points leader in the 35, and Anthony Jordan joins us in the 40. Now, in order to answer Ed Porter's question, I hardly ever get behind the sim, and if it's normally the case, as our broadcast director Mike Care will clearly testify, it's only when I go down to Simply Race. They are open. They've got some news very, very soon about the Simply Race British Championships and also the USCC. Very, very soon, some news. Head to simplyrace.co.uk for further information. But in many respects, David, this is the start of the business end. You know, we had Le Mans, now we go to Adria, and it's going to be... I cannot see a definitive winner out of both classes here this evening.
No, we're certainly not going to have any great jumps forward in terms of the title fight, but what we are going to see is that Chris Butcher is certainly going to have some new friends to play with tonight, because Ross McGregor is back in the mix. Lewis McGlade is, my goodness, he is definitely taking over the wheel from John Munro, and it's nice to see him basically absorbing all of John Munro's talent as well. So he's up with the chance of taking a podium as well. and then you've got Daniel Handover and Max Spooner in there as well. So yeah, it's all to play for tonight, but it's not going to make a critical change, I would say, on the championship, unless something happens to either Matt Richards, Chris Butcher, or potentially Martin Buchan or Christian Kelly.
Now, obviously, firstly, we have to send our get well wishes to Daniel Brewer, who is out with a collarbone break following a karting escapade quite recently. So a big thank you to Mike Pittman, the team boss of IMB Vod Bul Racing, for allowing us to stick Sean King in the number 91 BMW M6. So Sean is Chris's teammate. This might help the 65 maybe get a bit closer to Richards, because you never know, at this circuit anything can happen, and as we very well know, David, in motorsport pretty much it can happen at any given moment when you least expect it coming.
I love the way that sets it up nicely with a lot of expectation for tonight. I don't think we're going to be disappointed with what is going to happen. It's one of those tracks where it could get out of hand very, very quickly if drivers let the red mist descend and just push a little bit too hard. It's so incredibly easy to be a little bit too greedy on throttle and get these cars all out of shape. So as much as we're saying you can't really be smooth around this track, you have to try and be as smooth as you possibly can, given the constraints that you've got.
Well, we'll try and speak to one of the drivers if we can, and I've managed to arrange this pre this evening. Let's see if we can grab Team Texaco's very own Max Spooner, because he has been busy. Obviously, Freddie Hunt has fulfilled his 4 races this season, and we wish Freddie all the very best in his future endeavours, whether it's sim racing, but obviously we know he wants to get back behind the wheel. So hopefully we'll grab a word with Max Spooner very, very shortly. But he's probably busy beavering away. But how are things looking in practice at the moment, David? Who's leading the way at the minute?
So at the moment then, it's Ross McGregor at the top of the timing screens with a 1:12.314. So he jumps up ahead of your title contenders, Matt Richards and Chris Butcher. Now he could spoil the party for them. Lewis McGlade in 4th place, 1:12.917. That's your 4 drivers within the 1 minute 12s. Then it's down to Daniel Handover in 5th place, 1:13.429. Joey Vrolijk in that party as well, with Max Spooner, Sean King, Bradley Brockes and Sandro Ballesteros. They are split 5 cars, believe it or not, Alex, split, in fact, sorry, make that 6 cars split by 7/10 of a second. Then you've got Martin Buchan leading out the BMWs from Louis Stewart.
Brilliant. Okay, right. Well, I'm now going to head down and let's see if I can grab a word with Max Spooner from Team Texaco in the 60 Aston Martin. Good evening, Mr. Spooner. How are we?
We're well. It's a bit warm here, though. I don't know about what it's like for you.
Oh, it's 34 degrees here in the Limburg region of Belgium, and that is exactly where I'm commentating from at the moment. I'm actually in the commentary booth because a lot of people might know me for the B&L karting series and the Rotax Max Hero Trophy, which actually kickstart their seasons over the next 2 weekends. But obviously, you were working with Freddie over the last 5 or so weeks, and obviously there was great progression, not just from yourself, but from Freddie. How do you think things are looking for you guys at Team Texaco? I know that you've been trying to scrabble around to get a second driver, but obviously it's just yourself going solo here in Adria. How are things looking at Team Texaco in the second half of the season?
I think it's going to be an easier run this time round. I want to thank Freddie for taking his time out of his busy schedule to come and spend his Friday nights with me. I'm sure he can think of 1,000,001 things he'd rather be doing than having me for company. But no, it was great to have him on board. But I think being back at home, I'm on familiar territory now. I'm using my own setup that I would have practiced throughout the week, and now to go and race with it, I'm not having to look after both cars. So yeah, I'm feeling a bit more confident about this race. Pace is consistent at the moment. I think I'm 6th or 7th at the moment, and my pace isn't 1,000,000 miles away. So I'm more confident going into the second half of the season. I think we can start looking at maybe climbing a couple of places in the championship as well.
Okay, Max. Well, we'll leave you to it, as we'll have qualifying getting But Team Texaco's Max Spooner, good luck for this evening, sir.
Thank you very much.
So David, some interesting words there from Max. Obviously, Freddie is normally a real-life driver, but he's had to acclimatise. And it's not easy, is it, from going from the real-life racing world to the sim racing world? But we've seen it very much the case, the opposite side of the spectrum, where drivers have managed to get real-life drives based on their actual sim racing exploits. Take, for instance, Jan Mardenborough, who won the GT Academy way back when, and now he's a superstar in Japan with Super GT running for Nissan. It just shows how difficult sim racing really is, and the way the technology is now, how absolutely pixel perfect we see as we see another glimpse of the Adria Karting Raceway in the background.
It absolutely is, Alex. I've been a massive advocate, as you may well know, for a number of years on the crossover, the benefits, and I think what's happened is we've seen for a number of years it's been very much an us versus them kind of attitude between sim racing and real life motorsport, and I don't think it has to be that way. And I think this year has well and truly shown that. If you send drivers off to these driver development centres, like iZone, for instance, down in England, where they train you up on simulators, it's the same software that they use for your entertainment purposes. So, things like Simply Race, they've got their pro packages, and that's what it's all about. It's about that whole transfer from sim and taking it over into the real life. Fair enough, you're not going to get the full experience, you're not going to get jolted about with the G-forces, but then you don't have the danger as well. You don't have the risk of getting T-boned by a GT3 car on your side. You don't have the risk of having to pay £16,000 in damages because it's all gone wrong. So you've got all of the benefits, very little of the downside, and it's a wonderful thing. And I think we're going to see a lot more sims breeding very talented drivers. Look at Ferrari, for instance. They're launching their esports competition next week.
Indeed. Well, with that being said, let's head on to the David Christie piloted, considering he's wanted to become a race driver again after his recent purchase of the bright yellow Peugeot 107. Let's go on a hot lap here at Adria International Raceway.
Here we are at Adria International Raceway, 1.679 miles as we head down towards Ramata. First corner, first gear, 67 Ks. So you're going to come out of the corner, pull up to second, up to third, building the speed, and about 150 metres out from Cavanella, you're going to brake from 207 kph from fourth down to first at 55 Ks. Before you come out of the corner, then it's a slight kink to the right hand side as you're going to head towards Tolentino. Down from fourth at 188, down to first at 55 kilometres an hour, explode out of the corner, run wide to the left, second gear, third gear, pulling fourth, up to around 187 kilometres an hour, down to second at 100 kph, that's 62 miles an hour, through Variante Po, through to Quadro Uno, and then Quadro Due. First at 85 kilometres an hour, then second at 100 before you head down to Dogado, braking from 160 in third down to first at 70 kph, and then you've got one more corner to go. Della Fonte, braking from around 150 k's in third down to first gear, 80 kilometres an hour, and you power out of the corner, slight kink to the left, pulling second, pulling third, and you're going to cross the line in a 1 minute 18.077.
Qualifying now underway for the 5th round of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and SYNETIQ BMW Series being held here at Adria International Raceway in the Veneto region. Alex Goldschmidt and David Christie, your commentators all the way through this 8-round encounter, which has been a thrilling season so far, and at the moment, lighting up the timesheets purple through the first sector is Ross McGregor in the number 3. Marloe Watch Company Racing Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT3. Lewis McGlade not too far adrift in terms of position, but again, he might be second at the moment, David, but he's absolutely blitzing this lap as he's now going to come through into Della Fonte, the final corner here at Adria International Raceway, as the back end tries to step out on the rear, the Aston Martin, and he comes across the line and puts in a 1 minute 12.460 as Chris Butcher in the 65 IMB Vod Bul Racing puts the initial benchmark down of a 1:12.447.
Wow, those times are fuego. 600ths of a second between your top 3 drivers. That is just incredible pace on their first outlet, on their first, full speed lap. That's absurd.
Anthony Jordan, this is not Rallycross, I'm afraid. This is not Wild RX, and he's going to have to watch his P's and Q's, because as we've seen before in the last 4 rounds, David, that track limits, if you go past a certain amount of incident points, the system will automatically force you to take a mandatory drive-through penalty. And plus also in quali, with the way that the system is so intuitive, it will actually strike off fastest lap times quite quickly, won't it?
It certainly will, and it's not going to help your attempts to get round the track. The other thing as well is what you've got to remember is now is the golden time to be on the track, because there's, what's that, about, all 16 cars out on the track at the moment, but space is going to be an absolute premium for qualifying right now, because especially with these GT3 cars, it's going to be also easy to have a very fast lap hindered by the BMWs.
But then also, I think on this particular occasion, we saw that backmarker traffic was being caught up by, what was it, probably within the first 15 minutes of the race. I think with the tight and twisty nature of the circuit here at Adria, it's going to be even quicker. I think even if it happens within the first 10 minutes, as, Matt Richards goes a bit very, very squirrely on the back end through Quadro Uno and then makes it a bit smoother through Quadro Due as he now heads through Dogaro. This is really cool when you have these, you keep on talking about my flawless pronunciation. Well, it's lovely when you get these sort of corner names that just really roll off the tongue.
They do, but it's absolute jealousy, because I just really, really struggle with it. I was terrible at languages as a secondary pupil. So when you come out with your wonderful pronunciations and introductions, I'm sitting there like, right, okay then.
Well, there's probably a few curse words being muttered under your breath as I say them, probably like going. You're probably doing a Muttley behind.
Come on, I'm really good at them. I can happily share something.
Well, actually, the thing is, even though I'm an hour ahead of you at the moment, in realistic terms, as Martin Buchan leads the way in the SYNETIQ BMW Series. A great thing about Martin Buchan, now we've commentated on him on the SMRC Esports iRacing Championship, which is going to be, I think, happening next week on Thursday. I've got my work cut out for me next week. I think I've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I fly back over to Europe on the Friday morning, and then we do Fuji, and I'll be back here in the Karts and Genk commentary box with a face mask, and I am actually wearing one at the moment because we are actually mandated to do so over here, which is it's not too bad. Now, you remember in the highlights we saw that obviously Martin was the unwilling recipient of a slight touch on the rear by Tim Lane from Red Shell Racing. Hopefully we'll see him and Stuart Ross French a little bit later on this season. They're hoping to maybe come back at one of the rounds. Martin's BMW was hopping more than Bugs Bunny after the Dunlop Bridge, wasn't it?
It certainly was. It was. I think it was safe to say maybe a slight bit of suspension damage after that one, but he still managed to pull through it, and he's got a good chance tonight. Although Louis Stewart pulled out the times there, a faster time, 1:21.925. Louis was only doing 1:22s in free practice, so good to see him come down into the pace as well. But Chris Butcher 1:12.071. Can we see a 1 minute 11 lap tonight?
Yeah, the way he's hustling that BMW, that is on the absolute limit of adhesion as he comes through De La Fonte. And you could see multiple times that he was having to overcorrect, so he's actually making that car work with him rather than against him. Look at Max Spooner now. Now, who was that coming out of the pits? Was that Lewis McGlade, I think, having to avoid? But yeah, I mean, Max Spooner. Oh! Now, Matt Richards comes in with a 1:12.027 with just under 7 minutes and 20 completed on the clock here in quali. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to eteambrit.liveraces.com for live timing as it happens, and you can see all the sector times and also the positional gains. As Ben Hetherington now on a hot lap in the number 4 blue BMW M2 competition, and that is one of the eTeam BRIT cars just behind. It's just getting past, and we've also got one of the that's Sandro Ballesteros that's just gone past. We've also got one of the Cadan Casual Apex cars just behind, one of the 2 Callaway Corvette C7Rs. So again, we've got a yellow in sector 1 now. But you were spot on the nose, David, when you said that whilst the BMWs are trying to put the lap in, as Martin Buchan goes even quicker with a 1:21.239. Extending his gap by about 0.7 of a second by my estimation over Louis Stewart. This is a track where you did say you've got to try and be as smooth as you can, but you've also got to rag the cars by the scruff of their necks to really get the best out of them. One slight mistake, you can either end up going off the runoff through the runoff area, as we've just seen with Sandro Ballesteros going through Delgado as he goes through the right at De La Fonte. And now this is Sean King, so I think that was coming through Torrentino, and then he's going to go through Variante Po and then into Quadro Uno, and just loses it. But at least he can live to fight another day in qualifying, as that's a great bit of work from Bradley Brockie's P7, a 1:13.870, the 15-year-old based out of Kent. Actually, from the same neck of the woods as 2-time DTM champion, Mr. Gary Paffett, who ended his DTM career back in 2018 after securing his second and final title with the 3-pointed star. But again, we're seeing Brockies and Ballesteros really start to improve. And this is a young team, so at an average age, and I'm going to be completely honest here, an average age of 14. And these are our 2 youngest drivers on the grid. And Bradley Brockies has really, he's even out-qualified the sole Team Texaco driver, who just so happens to be his team boss at eTeam BRIT, Max Spooner. That's great to see the progression of these 2 youngsters.
It is, and it's wonderful, but I can imagine a little bit of frustration as well from some of the other drivers, because as much as we like to think that we're all mature, respectable adults, there's, getting beat by a 13 or 14-year-old is the most, sorry, Alex.
Yeah, there was a bit of a replay there, and that was Joey Vrolijk ending up in the, one of the BMWs has spun around, and then Joey Vrolijk, that was going through into Variante Po, had nowhere else to go, but it was a nose-to-nose accident. Here's Ross McGregor leading the way for Marloe Watch Company Racing. In the number 3, Lewis McGlade, his teammate for this round, as I know that John Munro is away in a minute. He's actually in the Netherlands visiting some friends. So I hope you're keeping well, John. I hope you're keeping an eye on the stream as well, buddy. As Matt Richards has got provisional pole, but I'm wanting to see, because we saw that Ross McGregor was leading the way in practice as we go on board with Matt Richards, and he's 2,000s up on his first sector, going through into Quadra Uno and then Quadra Due. But you can just see how much he's working behind the wheel of the 720S.
You absolutely can. The other thing about it, just to go back to the comments I was making about age, I think it's absolutely wonderful that sim racing is one of the few platforms in motorsport where age is not a barrier to the competing and to the competition. You can have 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds that are just as fast, if not faster, than their peers who are maybe double their age.
Very, very true. As you can see, the amount of steering lock that Matt Richards is putting on. I'm getting the questions thrown thick and fast by our good buddy Edward Porter. I don't drink whilst I'm commentating, Ed. I'm sorry to have to disappoint you, because otherwise I won't be at full strength. Yellow in Sector 1 as Richards and Buchan leading the way in both classes. Butcher, McGregor, McGlade, and then it is Daniel Handover in the 43 Zansho Simsport 2 Aston Martin that is in 5th place. Anthony Jordan making his SYNETIQ BMW Series debut in the number 40, currently P3, 1 minute 23.509. So he's going to be learning the track as he goes along. So effectively, it's nice to see new faces to join this championship. And before I forget, entries are open for round 6, taking place at Fuji Speedway this time next week. And the entries close as of 1900 BST this coming Tuesday evening. Here's Philip Webb, the boss of Cadan Casual Apex, in the number 7. So he's taken over for Ed Sibbald. He's informed me for this round, currently running P12. So I think in many respects, for those wondering, how can you get in touch? Email us at eteambrit@teambrit.co.uk, and you'll get in contact with us directly. We can then send you the information. For those wondering about the McLaren 720 SGT3, you can't have one, I'm afraid, because that is full to capacity. Also, the Aston Martins are pretty much full. And I'll actually give you people at home, if you are out there, Astons, we've got 6, so a full complement. You can have the availability of 3 Corvette C7s, maybe 1 or 2 BMWs. McLaren 650S, you can have 1 of 4. We still haven't had yet an Audi R8 LMS, GT3 or the GT3 Evo, the Bentley Continental, which is a brilliant GT car, I love that one. Fills me with British pride whenever I see it, and hearing it roar across. It's a bit of a tank, as you very well know, David, in terms of its handling characteristics. But then the Mercedes-AMG GT3, which Mr. Christie admitted his forlorn love for on the Canberra Media Racing page earlier on today. And then, of course, the iconic Weissach powerhouse that is the Porsche 911 GT3R 991-2. But a good run here from Max Spooner here, David. He seems to be a bit happier with the Aston Martin this time around in comparison with Le Mans, where he was running quite high at points, but this could be where the Aston really comes into its own.
It could be. One thing that I've noticed, however, is all of the GT3 drivers, with the exception of the McLarens, are absolutely struggling right now. For instance, I'm watching Chris Butcher at the moment, and just watching how he's having to throw that car around. He's just went into the pits just now, but how he's having to manhandle that BMW around the corners just to try and get the corner entry and the corner exit sorted. So I wonder if the extra weight of those BMWs is really sort of playing havoc. Sean King is another one as well. You can watch him. He's actually a lot smoother than Chris, but I wonder if that's maybe why he's about 2 seconds off of the pace right now. They'll say that quick improvement for him, 1:13.930. Another point as well, Alex, 6 cars within 9/10 of a second on the grid.
Joey Vrolijk, in the meantime, from Drillers Esports, now up into P5. We've had both John Munro and CHS Racing cheering on the Marloe Watch Company racing boys of Lewis McGlade and Ross McGregor. And Sean King, so at the moment, with just under half of the session remaining, Matt Richards still leads. Chris, and has he just equalled his time? He has. He's just done a 1 minute 12.027. I mean, he admitted in the Discord chat earlier on today that I've not even got enough steering lock to get through the hairpins. That's how hard these drivers are pushing. And David, obviously from your experience of doing the hot lap, you know, you're having to actually get the car to rotate rather than trying to steer it around the corner, which is very much a touring car style driving input, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's so difficult to explain, Alex. So when you come up to the corner, you normally you would smoothly brake and pitch the car in and let it roll round, but with this, the corners are so tight and so aggressive that you have to be aggressive with the car as well. You literally have to jab on the brakes. So normally, again, you would be very smooth with your inputs. With this track, you have to jab on the brakes, unsettle the car, unbalance it to allow it to slide round, and then as smooth as you can, back on the power, and then drift out to your outside line. So very, very difficult to get a very fast lap round here. And look at these guys. These are all, every single one of these guys is at least 3 to 4 seconds faster than that hot lap.
Yeah, which memory serves me correctly was around about a 1:18, but they are clearly pushing. Bradley Brockies improves in Sector 1. He's up by 2.3 tenths of a second. He's now going to head through to Variante Po and then Quadro Uno as one of the Grand Casual Apex cars. I think that might be Phil Webb or possibly Daniel Hyde. And Bradley looking a bit more composed there through Quadro Due up the run to Dogado. And he's taking a little bit of a wider line coming through the entrance into Dogado and then takes the tighter line going through, then into the right at De La Fonte, and this looks to be a bit more of a, well, he's lost a handful of time, nearly a second, so whether sometimes, as you said, David, being a bit too smooth might come at a deficit rather than a help, and he's just gone, that's a personal best of 1:13.583 with just over 12 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, with 12 minutes left to go though, Alex, I think a lot of these guys, their goose is cooked. I don't think they're going to get much of an improvement out with the fact that every single other driver out there is pushing as hard as they can. Mistakes are happening, cars are going wide, rejoining back on the track. I can't see it happening, but I really want to see a 1:11 from Matt Richards.
I'm hoping to see it from Chris Butcher. Maybe even Ross McGregor or Lewis McGlade.
Plot twist, Joey Vrolijk takes pole.
Oh, and he's just on an outlap as you said that. God, don't scare me. The least thing...
Believe, Alex, it's happening.
Will we get... Edward Porter says, will we get an improvement on David's one-liners? Well, we'll have to wait and see when we go green for 60 minutes of racing here at Adria.
Wow!
Oh, that was a low blow and a half, and we haven't even hit the watershed yet. My goodness. Well, actually, I will be in about 11 minutes' time. But I can't do that because if I have a Freudian slip, I might be taken off air, and that means all of us.
oh, what's that? We're not. Oh, right. Okay, I'll go and put that bottle of coffee liqueur away then. Sorry, guys.
Don't drink whilst you're on duty, Christy. You know better than that. This is the kind of banter that we've had ever since we started. What was it? We met each other first of all at Autosport International.
Yeah, that's right. Through
2019, which was like the briefest of like Sunday afternoon. Everything was closing out. It's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, bloody hell, I know you. And then it all sort of like twigged, and then we kept in touch, and then all of a sudden, I'm sticking a microphone in his face at the pit lane for the Distrigo Parts Distribution Citroen C1 24 hours last year.
Back in the good days where you could actually be face to face with people. I miss those days, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is a new normal after all. I've had to wear a lot of face masks being worn, and I've been wearing one since about 11 o'clock or something. Well, probably about 1 o'clock this afternoon. There's still plenty to go. So, in many respects, it's going to be quite interesting. And yes, yeah. Well, the funny thing is that good point by E-Roll and TJ reference Lewis. They actually flew into Paris to commentate on the WEC Virtual 24 Hours of Le Mans this year. I have to give a shout out to Studio 397 and the business development manager René Butler from Germany, based at in Nuremberg, not too far off the fantastic Nordschleife, as we go into the last 9 minutes of qualifying. Yellow in Sector 3. And
Daniel Hyde, that is, in the Corvette, deciding to do a little bit of lawn mowing, and I think he's just oh no, he's reversing now. I thought he'd given up. In fact, where on earth is Daniel Hyde? I think he's wanting to go and play on the karting circuit, or it might be on the entry to
No. I think he's doing Matthias Ekstrom, but he's in too big a vehicle. First of all, it's not four-wheel drive, and second of all, you don't want to spoil the rear tyres on a Corvette in the wrong way.
No, but you're in for a bad time.
Anyone at the grass tracks, especially if it's an MSV circuit. Oh, sorry, yeah, because you will get an invoice. And that is the truth. That is the honest-to-God truth in real life. If if you cause damage to the grass, you actually get sent an invoice, from what I've heard. Ross McGregor has improved again. Yeah, green sectors in both sectors 1 and 2, and he's got a couple of cars up ahead, one of which will be Louis Stewart. The other one's
Alex, we missed it. Joey Vrolijk up to 4th place, 1:12.568. I told you we need to believe this is going to happen.
Yeah, just to give a shout out to Antonio Ballesteros, which is Sandro's dad. Go on, Bradley and Sandro. These two young lads have practiced hard this week. I've seen them in the eTeam BRIT Discord server, talking away, and they've really come up trumps. And Sandro actually got the driver of the day last time out at Le Mans after a really good run, and it came down to a casting vote. Once again, I must remind people that it is the DAF driver of the day, and the way that this works is that you have to put in a public vote. So it's to email, and this is, now, just before I say that, Chris Butcher has just gone fastest in the first sector by 31 thousandths of a second. And he's up on sector 2, but it's not quite the fastest sector out of anybody. But this could be, if he puts it together, this could be the first sub 1 minute 12 here at Adria. And we've got less than 7 minutes on the clock remaining. Chris Butcher now powers out of the corner. Towards the line comes the BMW M6. And it is, 1 minute 12.013. Takes provisional pole, but he was 13 thousandths off of a 1 minute 11, David. It's getting closer and closer, and Butcher has fired a warning shot across the bow of the 44 McLaren of Matt Richards.
Yeah, Matt Richards is going to have seen that. He's going to come across the line just now, and he is going to want to defend that pole position there for Zansho Simsport. So Matt Richards currently on a lap at the moment. Chris Butcher has decided to, I was going to say call it a day, but with 6 minutes left to go, I don't think he can. So he's in pit lane, possibly made a few tweaks. He's worked out what went really well on that last lap round there. But Ross McGregor getting closer and closer still, 1:12.242. He's now just 2/10 off of that little battle.
Yeah, so very true there, David. Is Matt Richards hasn't improved in sector 1. He's about half a tenth down. So he goes through Variante Po and then goes very sideways. And loses the back end through Quadro Uno. Manages to get it back together. But for those wondering about the DAF driver of the day, it is for the driver that is voted for by the public to have the most outstanding performance. It is not down to myself and David to make this decision, because we feel it should be to you people out there, those watching at home. As Martin Buchan goes up by nearly a tenth in sector number 2, so he could be on the verge of getting ever closer to a possible sub 1 minute 20. If he does that, that's going to be quite incredible, but he's got 5 minutes or so left to go on the clock. So if you want to vote for the DAF driver of the day, don't send in your entries now. It's from when we hit half-time on the clock for the race itself, and then the voting will conclude at the end of 25 minutes of voting. You can go to eTeam BRIT, email eTeamBRIT@teambrit.co.uk. As here comes Philip Webb in the number 7 Sedan Casual Apex car, formerly run by Ed Sibbald. So he is currently P12 at the moment. So with 4 minutes and 30 left on the clock in qualifying, Butcher on provisional pole, Richards in second, McGregor, Vrolijk, McGlade, Handover, King, Brockies, Ballesteros, and Spoon around out the top 10, with Martin Buchan leading the way in the SYNETIQ BMW series. As there's Daniel Hyde, he's done a personal best of a 1 minute 14.663. He's up in sector 1 by nearly 2/10. So Louis Stewart and Anthony Jordan ran out the top 3, followed by Ben Hetherington. So let's see if Daniel Hyde does improve as he takes the wide line coming out through Quadro Uno and then into Quadro Due. Looks a bit more composed from the number 2 Sedan Casual Apex Corvette this time around, wouldn't you agree, David?
He's looking much more stable with that car. Of course, the setups are a big difference and a big factor between these different cars here out on track, as we've got 3.5 minutes left to go. The Corvettes are known for being absolute brutes in terms of putting all that horsepower down onto the track, and have a bit of a reputation for being a little bit unstable, but my goodness, do they make up for it with their race pace as well. So yeah, Dan really starting to get to grips with that car. I don't think this is going to be a track that suits the Corvette. I've got to be honest, just with the stop-start nature and the very aggressive way, doesn't lend itself to the raw power of that car.
Well, we're getting some more messages from both CHS Racing and John Munro, who are watching the stream. John said, think Ross will give the front two a run for their money this evening. You could be very well right, as Daniel Handover now takes 5th place away from Lewis McGlade. And CHS Racing has also said McGregor for the win. And if he does that, that's going to be quite interesting indeed. Sandro Ballesteros will now start what could be his, I think possibly his penultimate lap. If he's running at a 1:13.8, he goes into Ramata. And it's nice how the cars are able to sort of glide out to the right-hand side, David. And it's quite an interesting circuit, because now you're going to go into Cavanella and then come round there. And now this is where it tightens, and you get a bit of a slight right-hand kink, and then it's a blast down to Tonantino. So again, down the gearbox, into first, through Tonantino, and then up the gears, so up to second, third, fourth. You know, you're probably pushing about 180 kilometers an hour, which is around about 110 miles per hour, going through to Variante Po, and then you're back down the gearbox a couple of gears, through Quattro Uno and Quattro Due. You know, you're having to really, the gearbox is going to take an absolute beasting here from all the drivers, irrespective of the class that they're in.
Wow, just to jump in a second, what a lap. We were talking about how well Daniel Handover was doing. He's jumped up to 4th place now, beating Joy Vrolijk, 1:12.3.11 on that. So yeah, that's I would say a fantastic lap for him. The other thing that's really struck me, Alex, is I'm watching Matt Richards, and I'd love for you to be able to see him as well. Just how stable and planted and smooth that McLaren is looking as he takes it around the track. You can see he's really pushing that car to everything that he's got, but it just looks so planted compared to the BMW. And every time I speak about him, he goes into pit lane.
Commentator's curse, Christy.
It is.
It's the
so
CCC.
That's
Christie's commentator curse. Yeah, it's the commentator Christie's curse. Good evening, Tobin Lee from Lazarus, who actually took part in the Team BRIT Summer Series, taking the win at Laguna Seca, having battled alongside Yaroslav Honzik, or Jardier, as he's more commonly known, who competed. And I have to give a good shout out to Simply Race now throws their arm in, saying, no, you are mine, Tobin Lee, laugh out loud. But Jardier competed with the likes of Michal Schmidl, Michal Stefanko. I have to give a shout out to Lukas Redl, who is one of the producers of that championship, who've recently gone to the iRacing platform. As we now go into the last couple of seconds, Joey Vrolijk, he's not going to get it. Did he just cross that? Was the timer went to 0 and the checkered flag came out? Because if he's done that, no, I think he's bailed. I think he's bailed just by the way he came through out of the exit of Ramata. He's slowing, but Anthony Jordan up by nearly 0.2 of a second in sector 1 as he's gone through Tonantino for what's going to be the final time down to Variante Po. But at the minute, Butcher is on provisional pole. I don't think anyone has really got an opportunity as, Jordan goes very wide through Quattro Uno, through into Quattro Due. That was a bit of a messy second sector there. And Edward Porter, rightfully so, says, I'm giving my support for all the Scottish drivers out there. Good man. That's what we like. We like to hear about allegiances and who you're supporting. So Jordan drops quite a bit, nearly 1.6 seconds in sector number 2, and he looks to be the final driver to cross the line, but there is a Cadan Casual Apex car just behind him, and Jordan will stay in P3. Personal best from the number 40, 1 minute 23.1. Daniel Hyde will start P11. But let's have a look at the results of qualifying here at Adria International Raceway in the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and the SYNETIQ BMW Series. And I think it's the narrowest margin we've had for pole position all the way through this season so far. So Chris Butcher is your pole sitter in the number 65 IMB Vod Bul Racing, which means that Matt Richards was only 14 thousandths slower. Ross McGregor and Daniel Handover will make it an all Aston Martin Road 2 ahead of Joe Pollock, Lewis McGlade, Sean King. Good work by eTeam BRIT's Bradley Brockies and Sandro Ballesteros, and Max Spooner rounding out the top 10. So hopefully we'll go down to the next set of qualifiers. Daniel Hyde and Philip Webb. That makes it a row 6 for Cadan Casual Apex. So effectively, and then Martin Buchan takes pole by 0.686 of a second. Anthony Jordan making the SYNETIQ BMW Series debut in third ahead of Ben Hetherington. David, that is the closest margin in qualifying we have had all season. And it was about the two protagonists who are leading the way and are separated by just 22 points. That gives Chris Butcher another point to his tally. That's 21 points. He's now shaved that down to. And if he gets a win and the fastest lap, then he'll basically do the clean sweep. But he won't have the double points opportunity that Matt Richards had last time out at Le Mans.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of damage done with that double points win, but there's a saying that you've used every single week, Alex, is that times are for show and points are to go. But if this is anything to go by, my God, what a show we're in for tonight. Chris Butcher's, Matt Richards. Remember, Matt Richards does well when he's behind. He can chase down and he's got the pace, but when he's on his own in front, that's when bad things start to happen. So don't discount Ross McGregor up there as well. You've then got the BMWs. I think that this is going to be one of Martin Buchan's more comfortable runs tonight.
Yes, very, very true, as we are waiting to get the go-ahead from our race director and also the broadcast director to let us know that we will be going into 3.5 minutes here. But we'll be back in just a moment here at a virtual Adria International Raceway here for round 5 of the 2020 eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and SYNETIQ BMW Series. Back in a moment.
To allow us to be able to compete on a level playing field, we've had to use existing technology to create a set of hand controls that allow us to race on a level playing field. So if you imagine you're going to chicane at 150 miles an hour, our disabled drivers have to be able to go through the chicane at the same speed as the able-bodied driver. That means braking, steering, gear down, on the throttle, off the throttle, on the brake. Now, if we keep losing half a second or a few tenths of a second at every chicane, we might be the best driver on the track, but we can't be competitive. So that was the criteria that I gave the engineers. That if we can't do that, then we can't go racing. Al Locke he's the brains behind our team. He's our race engineer. I tell him what I want and how I want it. He said it's not possible, and I know it's possible because I believe in Al. The cost of the hand controls varies from about £5,000 to about £7,500. That's because we've managed to find a manufacturer in Slovenia that does all this specialist engineering. None of this would be possible without Al's British engineering.
The main thing that inspires me to keep going with Team BRIT is the quest for constant improvement. You know, we've developed a set of hand controls, and we're not a team that's going to rest on their laurels. We're constantly pushing for better and faster developments.
Well, we're about to get things underway for 60 minutes of racing action in Bella Italia at Adria International Raceway. Alex Goldschmidt and David Christie, your official eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and SYNETIQ BMW Series commentators. David, once again, the anticipation. It's building to possibly what we could see as a mushroom cloud explosion here in Italy.
You built it up so nicely, and I've got to be honest, I think that's an understatement. Given that we're already missing John Munro and Bobby Trundley, this is absolutely unfounded, confounding impact on the championship. Joey Vrolijk, it's all on him. He's now put himself in that position to do that in 5th place. I think he's got a real chance to leapfrog over the pair of them this week. I mean, he's only 15 points behind John Munro in 3rd place there, so a good result for him, and that'll see him up to 3rd place in the championship with only 3 rounds left to go after tonight.
Yeah, so we have Fuji Speedway, the Dubai Autodrome, and the revised returning Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on the 21st of August. Shout out to our good friend at Team BRIT, Andy Tucker, who is absolutely gutted that he's missing the race, but good luck this weekend with everybody at the team. So Aaron Morgan, Matty Street, Luke Pound, DSC Motor Racing aka Darren S. Cook, and Bobby Trundley. Guys, all the very best of luck out there. We are cheering for you for this weekend. I might be in Belgium, I don't care. I'm going to cheer on my buddies at Team BRIT this weekend from further afield. So I think, again, this air of uncertainty is what has really made this championship so far, David, to be quite literally brilliant. And I'm going to be, as they say, the quick, it comes around quickly, and then before you know it, it's all gone, and we're like already past the halfway point.
Yeah, it happens every time, and the excitement is real as we're about to start our race here.
So very shortly, we will see the drivers make a full formation lap, the 1.679 mile circuit here at Adria International Raceway. When I visited the karting raceway, which is basically just adjacent from the first corner at Ramata, and there is actually a hotel in the background that you can actually stay at, and I have stayed in said hotel. I've known people that have actually been testing over there. I've heard GT cars are all around it, Formula 4 cars, motorbikes, so every single type of noise, and at least on the karting circuit you can have your karts over there. So you get the best of both worlds, but one of the biggest things about Adria International Raceway is it is the home of the TCR Endurance Series, run by the venerable Aldoy family, who and the facility itself, David, if you ever get an opportunity, go there. Don't turn it down. It is a brilliant circuit, as we are now on the formation lap here at Adria, ahead of 60 minutes of racing. So let's, without further ado, run you through the grid. Chris Butcher from IMB Vod Bul Racing, the 65, will have Matt Richards from Zansho Simsport alongside. And as you can see, they're going to start getting into a 2x2 formation. That'll be Ross McGregor and Daniel Handover on row number 2. I think we might have Joey Vrolijk and Lewis McGlade on row 3, but here is the official starting order. Chris Butcher and Matt Richards, row 1. Butcher on pole. Handover and McGregor, row 2. So there's BMW, McLaren, and then a double Aston Martin whammy for row 2. Joey Vrolijk and Lewis McGlade, that is row number 3. Sean King replacing Daniel Brewer, who we hope you get more soon, buddy. And he will have Bradley Brockies alongside from eTeam BRIT. Then it's Sandro Ballesteros and Max Spooner rounding out the top 10, with Daniel Hyde and Philip Webb, the Cadan Casual Apex Giro Corvettes, rounding out the end of the GT3 grid. Then we go to the 4 entries in the SYNETIQ BMW Series. Martin Buchan, who's done a clean sweep so far, 4 wins, starts from pole. Louis Stewart in the Green Machine, the number 13, alongside with Anthony Jordan in the 40, Ben Hetherington in the 4, rounding out the 4 drivers. This is where the real race towards the titles gets underway, as very shortly we are heading towards De La Fonte, and before you know it, when we get told, it will be green and avanti here in Italy. So let's see what happens as we go heading towards Ramata for the very first time. Who will be the first one to jump and get the whole shot ahead of the rest of the field? You can just see it's a dogfight between these two. As now we go, looks like we've gone green, and looks like there was a bit of hesitation from first Richards and then Butcher as they head into Ramata for the first time. There's handover up the inside of McGregor through into P3. Vrolijk. And Max Spooner has absolutely launched that Aston Martin into the stratosphere, and he's up into P7, so he's made up 3 positions already. So we have as Richards round the outside of Butcher, but Butcher keeps the lead for the minute. These two have been at each other's throats all the way through the first 4 rounds. 2 wins apiece, and the person that wins this race will have 3 wins to their credit, as again the McLaren looks to be a bit more edgy, but the BMW, David, really having some good legs coming out of the corners.
Yeah, Butcher has had a horrible start, and he has a big wobble there going in towards the corner. That throws him back in towards Daniel Handover, who got a great start there, but he absolutely botched the start. He went too early, had to slam on the brakes, the green flag was waved, and that lost him a lot of momentum, and now he is under all sorts of pressure from Daniel Handover and Ross McGregor, and that is the start that we did not want to see for Chris Butcher.
And in many respects, I think it's going to be a tighter dogfight than we will see this evening, as we haven't really seen all season, apart from the season opener back at Donington Park. But Louis Stewart closing on Martin Buchan. Pair now just over 1.2 seconds adrift. Anthony Jordan in third, Ben Hetherington in P4. So Richards now has the lead of over 0.6 of a second from Chris Butcher. Daniel Handover rounds out the top 3 ahead of Ross McGregor, Joe Vrolijk, and Lewis McGlade is now being chased down by Max Spooner in P7. Daniel Hyde now up into P8, Bradley Brockies, and that is Sean King up to P10.
Just watching the way that Chris Butcher is driving that car right now, Alex, and I'm really concerned for it. I'm hoping that he's not overdriving the car at this early stage. We're only a couple of minutes into the race, and he's got to think about tyres and brakes as well. But Matt Richards, he doesn't do all that well under pressure, and we've seen that time before, as Butcher right on the tail now of Matt Richards.
Yeah, it's getting closer in the braking zone. The gap was truncated a bit to just under half a second, but now Richards, when he comes out of the corner, he'll start pulling away from the BMW. But Butcher, we've seen it before, he has been able to manhandle that BMW M6. His handover now trying to close, as will McGregor, but they are starting to drop Joe Vrolijk. You said about the pace that he had at Le Mans, but here in Italy, the Dutchman quite clearly struggling.
Yeah, he's been found wanting with the pace, and this was his chance, as we see. Oh, and there's contact behind all the cars into each other. That's Daniel Handover and Ross McGregor. It looked like Joey Vrolijk was involved there. His car appeared to have some sort of connection issue there, and that has meant that Ross McGregor and Daniel Handover, I think that's going to be a retirement for Ross McGregor, firmly wedged that car into the barriers.
That'll be a repeat of what happened when he went off through Tetra Rouge last time out at the Mulsanne, heading towards the Mulsanne corner, Mulsanne straight. So now, Vrolijk up into P3, but Lewis McGlade, I think, has been given a bit of a lifeline here to go for for third place. And effectively, if Ross McGregor does DNF again, it's going to come to the sister car, this time piloted by Lewis McGlade. But let's have a look at the replay. So there is Handover. McGregor behind, go through into Ramata. So just going to keep an eye. Now, there was a massive lag spike, so it looked like the car of Handover actually, yeah, that's really weird. So Handover's gone into McGregor, or was it the other way around?
Well, see, I saw Joey Vrolijk involved in that, and I thought it was Joey Vrolijk that had actually had the issue with that, but I mean, either way, that's a huge disaster there, as Lewis McGlade going further down the order. Now he's down in 8th place after running in 4th. He's gone very wide at turn 1 and all the way down the order.
But look at what this has meant that Max Spooner, who started the race and got up to P7 before the first half of the lap was completed, he is now up into P4, and he's chasing down Joey Vrolijk. So the gap between them is about 2.7 seconds, as again, Butcher, really, he's trying to be really aggressive on the curbs. And the biggest thing is, David, is with GT3 machinery, you're going to have a major problem. If you take too much curb, it's going to spit out the back end, and send you on a journey you don't really want to go on.
I'm absolutely loving this from Butcher. He knows that this car is so strong in the second half of the circuit as the cars slide out wide of that final corner there. But it's on the straight. This is where Matt Richards does tend to streak away. But now that gap is now under 0.3 of a second. I think Chris Butcher has got the measure of Matt Richards, and we're just seeing the pressure getting applied even more and more and more until Matt Richards starts to crumble.
Very, very true. But we have seen it before where he's been leading and he's made mistakes. Yellow in sector 2 there. And the gap now between these two at the front of the field is just under 0.3 of a second. So Butcher is wanting to make sure that obviously he was a disadvantage at Le Mans. Now at Adria, the equilibrium has been thrown in his general direction. Now he's got a fighting chance of beating Matt Richards on pure pace and racecraft here at Adria.
Yeah, we normally see it that Matt Richards just streaks away off into the sunset, but that's not happening. And I mean, I'm watching Chris Butcher, the way he throws that BMW around and the speed difference that he has over that McLaren is just incredible.
Well, just by the replay that you ladies and gentlemen saw on your screens at home, Joe Vrolijk was being chased by Lewis McGlade, and McGlade went in a bit too hot, lost the back end, and the front end hit the barrier. So he might be carrying a bit of damage. 53 minutes and 49 seconds. Still to go here at Adria's. Butcher really, really trying to close down on the 44 from Zansho Simsport, and they are getting away from Joe Vrolijk by nearly 7 seconds. But in some respects, David, we've got 13.5 minutes until the pit stop window opens, and with these two battling, you said about Joe Vrolek's pace. There is an opportunity here that whilst these two are battling, Joe Vrolijk will start to just chip away at that gap in front. And I can quite clearly see that happening. He was brilliant at Le Mans, did some of the most dynamite overtaking we've seen all season. But this is where the strategy is now going to come in, because he's going to try and drive his own race and think, well, the greater goal of this is to try and catch the two in front.
It is, but then we also saw, wasn't it Vrolijk that was caught out by the pit stop strategy at Le Mans last time, almost missing the pit stop window. He does have the pace, but I just can't see it happening tonight. He doesn't look to have the pace of Matt Richards and Chris Butcher. In fact, the two leaders already, after just, 8 minutes, catching up to the back of the SYNETIQ BMWs.
And at the back of that is Anthony Jordan just up ahead. Yeah, well, Joe Vrolijk not only nearly missed the pit stop window, he had a 26.2 second pit stop, which actually circumvented the mandatory 30-second pit stop at Le Mans, and subsequently he got a 60-second post-race penalty, and he admitted he thought it was a 2.4 hour of Le Mans endurance encounter and fueled his car to the brim. That's why the McLaren was so slow. So these things do happen. Mistakes do get made, as now Butcher is trying to keep with Matt Richards as they're going to get past Ben Hetherington, who's now up into P3, as we've now got just under 12 minutes to go until the pit stop window opens. So it's we open the window with 20 minutes completed, close it with 20 minutes to go, and it's a mandatory 30-second pit stop time. They have to put fuel in, and they have to have all 4 tyres changed.
Yeah, just having a look, I'm very lucky that I can kind of switch between all the action on track. I'm watching this fantastic battle down in 8th place. Sean King, oh my goodness me, Sean King was fending off Sandro Ballesteros and Daniel Handover, and it's a little twitch from the BMW, as we've seen from Chris Butcher, and he oversteered into the barrier, and he is now down into 10th place, so disaster for Sean King there.
Yeah, last minute substitution for Daniel Brewer, but now here is Sandro Ballesteros, and he is 3.5 seconds behind the number 33 of Lewis McGlade. Daniel Handover all the way down in P9, and then we've got Sean King, as you were just mentioning there, and this is a great battle. Now look at Daniel Hyde. He's being closed in on by Lewis McGlade as Anthony Jordan runs wide, and Hyde looking a bit, I must be honest with you, we have seen some dramas involving Daniel Hyde, but he is actually trying to keep it a lot cleaner as Lewis McGlade gets a bit more composed coming through the corner, and that is through Tonantino going down to Variante Po. But Daniel Hyde does a really, really good defensive job in the Chevy Corvette on Lewis McGlade, who's going to I think with any driver, they'll want to get past as quickly as possible because it's going to compromise their race. But with Sandro Ballesteros now getting past Ben Hetherington, Hyde and McGlade trying to get through, they get through very, very quickly there. So good work by the SYNETIQ BMWs to get out of the way. Through into the right at De La Fonte they go. This is an absolutely brilliant battle. And what's more, this could be the best finish, touch wood, for eTeam BRIT because Bradley Brockies is only in P5, would you believe that?
Yeah, it's a brilliant performance as we see the leading duo of Matt Richards and Chris Butcher going past Louis Stewart as well. So there's action all over the track, but a cracking little battle you've got there in 5th, 6th and 7th place there. Bradley Brockies leading that little train of Daniel Hyde and Lewis McGlade. Lewis McGlade tries to fire it up the inside, but thinks better of it. You're absolutely spot on as well when you say about Daniel Hyde. What a completely different driver he is in that Corvette. We've said that it is not the easiest car to drive, and he's found himself in some very, very difficult situations. But yeah, he's handling himself like a champ right now.
Yes, there's a replay of what happened to Sean King there. And Daniel Hyde has actually dropped a couple of places. He's dropped a place, so Lewis McGlade has got past. Up into P6 goes the lead. Now, have we had a confirmed DNF on Ross McGregor? Is my biggest question. That's a real shame.
With suspension.
Just the same as what we had at Le Mans last time out. There's now Bradley Brockies trying to keep himself. Now this is nearly side by side going down the main straightaway. Now we've seen going into La Mata that Lewis McGlade did have a bit of a moment earlier on in the race, but now he's going to try and send it up the inside. That is about as much rubbing as you can dare through Ramata. This is again allowing Daniel Hyde to come back into the mix as they're going to head up to Cabanella, and it's side by side. Brocky's to the outside of the corner. Can he try and get the cut back through? That's very, very touch and go between the Aston Martin and the McLaren. But Daniel Hyde, I think, now needs to sit back, just bide his time in this race to see what happens in front.
Yeah, anything can happen. We've got another 50 minutes of the race to go. We've got pit stops, we've got strategy all to go. So, you know, we've got like 4 or 5 different individual battles going on through the track. The gap between Matt Richards and Chris Butcher is kind of opened up a little bit, just by about 1/10 of a second. That's now up to about 4/10 of a second. Joey Vrolijk is getting hunted down by Max Spinner at a rate of knots. That's going to happen very, very soon. But Lewis McGlade, I think, is going to catch on to the back of Max Spinner, and still, I wouldn't put it past him getting a podium tonight.
Very true, but then you look at what Max Spooner is doing. He's not letting Joey Vrolijk get away, but he's not eating into the gap, nor is he letting the Dutch driver get away, and that is going to be effectively battle for de facto P3. But that depends on the two in front, who we swing back to very, very nicely there indeed. So Richards has a lead of about half a second ahead of Chris Butcher, but that BMW looks so much more measured through the late braking through into the corners there, David, in comparison with the McLarens. Two very different animals in terms of the GT3 machinery we have on the grid.
We spoke before during the warm-up and during the qualifying about how the two different lines are going to suit you. The McLaren prefers a much more delicate and nuanced, a smoother approach, whereas the BMW is an absolute animal. You have to attack every single corner or it just won't respond well. Chris Butcher was complaining in between qualifying and the race that he was struggling to get the brakes heated up and getting the braking pressure properly sorted out. But yeah, it's ebbing and it's flowing between Matt Richards and Chris Butcher, but I do think Chris Butcher is just biding his time right now, because Matt Richards tends to go wide every now and again, and brings Chris Butcher right back into it.
Yeah, very, very true. I've just seen a couple of comments from Ross McGregor. Ross, obviously I'll have a discussion about this. I'm not too sure what the broadcast show. I mean, there's quite a lot of action that's been going on over the last 14 minutes, as we are 6 minutes away from the pit stop window opening here at Adria. And you can just see how brightly these brakes are glowing on the front axles of these cars here at Adria. And now Richards is being closed in on again. And you're spot on the nose that Matt Richards is trying to be smooth. Chris Butcher is just absolutely trying to bring the Munich branded car by the scruff of its scrawny little neck. Well, it's not exactly scrawny because these are pretty beefy cars, but he's just like literally just chopping away when he gets into the late brakes, because he's using Matt Richards as a yardstick. And you said about this before, David, But the minute that Matt Richards starts to lead, this is where something might happen. And I stress the word might happen. But it's about how Richards copes under the pressure. He's got a 21-point lead at the moment. Who's got the fastest lap in both categories at the minute?
I will tell you that in just a second. I would imagine that it's actually Chris Butcher and it'll be Martin Buchan, but I will confirm that for you in just a second.
Brilliant. Okay, so that means that it's only 3 points if you between first and second, because we run with the IMSA point side of things. So 35 for a win, 32 for second, 30 for third. And in the SYNETIQ BMW series, it's 14 for first, 13 for second, and 12 for third place. So, and 11 for fourth. So in many respects, it was a case of these sort of things just sort of happening. So yeah, I just think at the end of the day, Matt Richards just needs to keep it calm and composed more than anything.
He certainly does, and the thing is we see he's got the ability, but the problem is with Chris Butcher. Now, again, I'm just looking at the very slight differences. Butcher, by the car's very nature, has to throw that thing about, but now we're starting to see Matt Richards starting to slide the car a little bit more, start to push for a little bit more traction that he might not have in that car. As I see one of the BMWs, that's Anthony Jordan, going very, very wide to accommodate your leading GT3 cars.
Yeah, very, very true. Very, very true indeed. It's Bradley Brockes. Now has a little bit of a moment, touches the side of Daniel Hyde, and there is Daniel Handover and Sandro Ballesteros. So it's fast becoming what will be a forecast wrap for P6. As Handover up the inside of Brockes there for P7. That was a clean move from the Aston Martin on that particular occasion. But Bradley Brockes is going to have the run coming into the next corner. That's going to go through Tom Lantino. That's a clean move by the 105 McLaren. That's a great little move there for Bradley Brockes there.
Oh, but there's a little bit of touching on the exit of the corner there between Brockes and Handover, but I think Brockes has got that position done, and they're going to have to be careful now because it's an eTeam BRIT sandwich right now. There is Sandro Ballesteros in 9th position, looking to take that position straight from Daniel Handover.
Yeah, very much the case. So we'll just see what happens. 2.5 minutes until the pit stop window opens here at Adria for round 5 of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and SYNETIQ BMW Series. But at the moment, the gap is still pretty much even Stevens between Richards and Butcher here, David. Just under half a second, but Butcher is just really keeping Richards very, very honest at the moment. As Bradley Brockes goes a bit wide through Ramata, and that allows Daniel Handover to close back up on him again. But Sandro Ballesteros, I think, is doing a very strategic call here. He's waiting to see what happens in front as Daniel Hyde still keeping ahead in the Corvette. Handover up the inside of Brockes yet again. They bang panels, and that unsettles the back end of the Aston Martin. And that has allowed Sandro Ballesteros to really, really close in on that front. And oh my goodness, Handover trying to go around the outside of Brockes. Can't get around the outside through Tonantino, and that is going to allow Sandro Ballesteros to close back in on the back of the Aston Martin.
It's starting to get a bit exciting now, isn't it? With there we go, pit lane is open, so it's going to be who blinks first then, because obviously we've got the leaders right now. I don't think we're going to see either of those going in right now, but what a race we've got between Brockes, Handover and Ballesteros, and this is allowing Daniel Hyde just to go, yep, see you later guys, and laugh his way off into the sunset. Have a look though at Lewis McGlade. The pace he has got right now is sensational. 100% he is on for a podium right now if he can keep that up.
Yeah, very, very true. Because now I noticed that the gap between Max Spooner and Joe Vrolijk is about 2.4 seconds at the moment. So Max Spooner really doing a good job in the Aston Martin for Team Texaco. It'll be the highest position of any of the drivers in that team have been so far in the season. And as we are fast getting through to the pit stop window being opened here at Adria for round 5. But this is a great cat and mouse game. And now what's going to happen with regards to Hyde, Brockes, Handover and Ballesteros, they've got the SYNETIQ BMWs up here, David. Again, the back market traffic will start playing into the strategies that these drivers are doing in the race. As Hyde now tries to get up the inside, goes through on Hetherington with Jordan, who's now back up into P3. Rockies, handover, and Ballesteros are going to have to try and get through very, very quickly, and that nearly compromises handover in the process. Ben Hetherington gets out of the way, has to go onto the grass to avoid. And Anthony Jordan decides to take the runoff area through Delgado in order to get out of the way, just to let them go through. Pit stop window now open. Pit stop window now open. Drivers have the next 19 minutes and 50 seconds to make a mandatory pit stop of 30 seconds. They must change tyres, and this is where it's going to get really, really interesting now, because these drivers here, David, are giving no quarter whatsoever.
Oh, man, this battle for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th is just insane. Oh, side-by-side action though. I've moved up to have a look at Lewis McGlade, who is fighting out with Max Spinner. And Max Spinner outbreaks himself, and that means that Lewis McGlade moves up into 4th place, and that is going to compromise Max Spinner hugely and draw him into the clutches of Daniel Hyde, who's now going to be about 7 seconds behind Max Spinner. So Lewis McGlade up to P4. Next target, Joey Vrolijk, P3.
Yeah, so here is the moment when Max Spooner, as you very so well put, outbraked himself, and that was going into Cavanella, and he's run really, really wide. He's just left the door wide open. Lewis McGlade has gone, thank you very much, but then Spooner tries to get the run on him, going down to Don Lantino, and again down to the hairpin. Oh, he's done a near on what you see at Rettifilia chicane at Monza. He nigh on straight lined it.
Yeah, that's not what you want to do here at Adria, but he lives to tell the tale another day. 5th place still for Max Spooner right now. Brilliant, brilliant result, and I think that's easily his best result of the season so far, isn't it?
Yeah, just going to have a quick look at the points for him at the moment.
We're both doing the same thing. I'm bringing up the points as well, but I'm keeping an eye on this battle for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th again. It's just brilliant. Oh, and Daniel Hyde goes very, very wide and loses out 6th place, and that's also going to hand possibly 7th place to Daniel Handover. So a big mistake there for Daniel Hyde. No real damage done to the car. Oh, there's contact, they're rubbing doors side by side, and he's thrown onto the grass. Daniel Hyde then is that was Daniel Handover, all the way down into 9th place there, and Daniel Hyde recovers and keeps himself in P7. So that was a little bit naughty, showing Daniel Handover onto the gravel there.
Very, very true. 37 minutes and 40 seconds to go. You've got just over 7.5 minutes until the DAF driver of the day voting starts. So please make sure that you put in your vote to eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk after we hit half an hour on the timer. 17 minutes and 24 seconds left on the timer for the pit stop window. Each driver must serve a mandatory 30-second pit stop. Joey Vrolijk fell foul of that last time out at Le Mans when he literally did a Max Spooner. Spooner did that. He jumped into the pit lane with 15 seconds on the clock back at the season opener at Donington Park. And Joey Vrolijk did the same thing, but then didn't stay stationary for an extra 3.8 seconds, which meant he could have actually had 3rd place instead of John Munro last time out. But again, this is what you want to see. It doesn't necessarily have to be the leaders, who are now about over 8.5 tenths of a second apart. But seeing this great battle as now that's one of the eTeam BRIT cars running a bit wide, and that has allowed, that is Sandro Ballesteros, that's had a bit of a moment there going through Don Lantino, and that's allowed Daniel Handover to get through before Variante Pole up into P8, goes to the 43 from Zansho Simsport 2.
Yeah, Daniel Hyde still in that 7th place ahead of Daniel Handover, and I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of payback coming up from Daniel Handover, because that, as I said, that was a little bit naughty. But also having a look further up and keeping my eye on the timing screens, Joey Vrolijk and Lewis McGlade are now together on the track. Joey Vrolijk is now just ahead of Lewis McGlade there. So stunning action all the way through the championship here, as Daniel Hyde having to go the defensive inside line over Daniel Handover. So I don't know where to look right now, I've got to be honest, Alex.
Yeah, that's likewise for me, but at the moment, coming back to the SYNETIQ BMW series for a minute, Martin Buchan has got a country mile lead ahead of Louis Stewart, who's set to take his first ever 2nd position in this championship so far, as the battle between Anthony Jordan and Ben Hetherington is still going on strong, and that is for the final step on the rostrum. Yellow in sector 3, as again, Rockies, Hyde, Handover and Ballesteros covered by, what is it, that's probably about 2.5 seconds there, and they are still not giving up. Just over 35 minutes to go.
That's Ben Hetherington, who's had a big moment on the entrance to pit lane there. The car facing the wrong way. He managed to recover it and get into pit lane, but that is terrible luck for Ben Hetherington there.
As along with that, Anthony Jordan is actually DNF'd. Now, what has happened to Anthony Jordan? He's just DNF'd. It saw him going into the pits. So what has happened to him, I wonder? As now Ben Hetherington is actually serving his mandatory pit stop. He's elapsed on 20 seconds in the pit box. So here's our first of the SYNETIQ BMW Series drivers, with Anthony Jordan now calling it a day, and Ben Hetherington is safe. The timer has now gone over 35 seconds in terms of his mandatory pit stop. But again, it's about who blinks first between Richards and Butcher, and that's, I think, really, David, is the key factor of who is going to win this race here in Italy.
I think you're absolutely spot on with that one. I'm just trying to keep my eye on all the different permutations of this. But yeah, I think Matt Richards has got the upper hand right now on Chris Butcher. Chris Butcher looking very aggressive.
Butcher's pitted. He has pitted from second, so he
has blinked first. Yeah,
he has blinked first. But I'm not at all surprised, because obviously with the way that he was hustling that BMW, that car has literally been cornering on rails from the minute we went lights out, and he's been hustling it to keep behind Matt Richards at the moment. So
Lewis McGlade into the pits as well now, and now Lewis McGlade has now just pitted, so he's temporarily ahead of Chris Butcher on the timing screens, but that's just while all the other cars may come through as well. Daniel Handover jumps at the pits, so I think this next lap round we're going to start seeing the cars coming in.
No, we've had a problem. Butcher's done. That is 4/10 off of a 30-second pit stop for the second successive race. It's another driver. It's a GT3 driver that's fallen foul. That was 29.6 seconds for Chris Butcher. Another 4/10, and he would equal 30 seconds. And that is going to give him a 60-second penalty. I'm just waiting for that confirmation. But that was not long enough.
So, if he comes in again before that timer's up, can he do that? Would that work?
If it's his mandatory pit stop, this is not a question. This is a question that's really for race control, because even if you go in for a mandatory stop, because it's meant to be one mandatory stop, because if he puts in another one, he's got another trip down the pit lane. He's going to bump himself down the order, and that is going to compromise his chance for victory. So Richards and Vrolijk now in the pits. Richards now that's over 22 seconds. So Max Spooner now becomes the de facto leader as he gets up the inside of Martin Buchan, and Richards, if he comes out of the pits, he's also going to get a 60-second penalty. 29.4 seconds for the championship leader in the pit phase.
Well,
what is going on? What is going on? I am absolutely shell-shocked.
Right, Alex, get on the phone. We need to get some stopwatch sponsors for the championship.
No. But, oh no, you've got to be kidding me. You know, they say that lightning never strikes twice. Gary Vrolijk has just done 24.2. But the biggest thing that I have here, and I'm going to come back to your point, if these drivers are going to do a splash and dash, that could put the equilibrium in there, but it's dependent on what race control says, because this could really change how this race actually finishes, because effectively you've got Butcher, Richards and Vrolijk that have all done sub 30-second pit stop lap times, and that's where the key point is here. If it's a mandatory stop, it's got to be 30 seconds.
Right, let's work this one out then. So, if that is the case and those three do get penalties, I think we could see Lewis McGlade either taking the winner of this race or being on second step at the podium.
I think we're going to probably have the most outlandish podium in this season so far. As Max Spooner now has an 8.7 lead over making that 9.2 seconds over Daniel Hyde. 30 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. You've got just under a minute to go until we start opening the voting for the NAF driver of the day. So don't forget to vote by casting it to eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk. And we'll calculate the percentages, and if it does come to a casting vote, then myself and David Christie will make that decision on the spot. The voting will open in 25 seconds time and run all the way through until 5 minutes before the end of the race. What's up,
Big
David?
gasp of breath there. Chris Butcher takes the lead from, takes fourth place from Matt Richards there. They were held up from the SYNETIQ BMWs. They're just behind Bradley Brockies right now, but that was a huge dive up the inside for Chris Butcher, and that puts him up into fourth place.
So, DAF Driver of the Day voting starts now. 30 minutes on the clock. You've got 25 minutes to put in your DAF Driver of the Day votes, as that is one of the eTeam BRIT drivers in the pits. I have a feeling that is going to be Bradley Brockies, maybe? No, well, Daniel Hyde's just pitted. Bradley Brockies has just pitted. So Sandro Ballesteros will effectively become fourth. But Max Spooner, if he is doing a long haul, he's got 11.5 seconds ahead of himself and Chris Butcher. Matt Richards is literally on the back bumper of the BMW, swarming all over it, going through into Cavanella. This isn't over yet, but the biggest thing is obviously with Vrolijk, Butcher, and Richards, are they doing a splash and dash? That is what I want to know, because if that does that level the equilibrium in terms of the pit stops?
I don't think it would, because it has to be a one stop has to be 30 seconds in length. So what I was meaning is, would it be better for them, damage control, to take that another stop just to make sure it hits that 30 seconds so they don't get the 60-second penalty and just try and work away on that time? But yeah, it's not going to work for them if they're looking for a splash and dash, 100%.
Well, if you wanted drama, by golly, you've got it. This has really changed everything. And look, bit of a touch there by Matt Richards on the back bumper of Chris Butcher, but the BMW gets away with it as they come across the start-finish line. So Max Spooner, I think, is going to go as far as he can in this pit stop window phase. He's got 8 minutes and 26 seconds, so if he's fueled it through a strategy call, I think he's possibly got, if he's running like 1 minute 14s, 1 minute 15s as Martin Buchan pits from the lead of the SYNETIQ BMW series. I think that if it's interesting to see, because I think we're going to have the most topsy-turvy top five that I think anyone would have expected here. So yeah, even if they come in and serve another pit stop, David, they'll be doing it outside of the window, which means that it won't count against the mandatory stop, and it's really changed things. This has got more twists in the tail than the never-ending story of this race. I cannot believe what I am seeing. What we saw enough of it at Le Mans, Adria, has really changed the dynamic of this race.
Yeah, I'm watching these two fight out, Chris Butcher and Matt Richards. I've got to say, Matt Richards is driving very, very differently right now. He is driving, it might not be the case at all, he's driving like he is absolutely furious right now. That's two little nibbles that Matt Richards has had on the back of that BMW, two little bits of contact, and he is not giving that up without a fight. And Max Spooner right now, I think, what a race for him. He must be absolutely delighted. He must be like thinking, what is going on? I'm in the lead of this race and there's nobody nearby.
Yeah, very, very true. But Max Spooner now has a 7-second lead over Chris Butcher in the. I never thought I'd be saying this. Max Spooner leading an eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge race. Who would have thunk that 4 races ago, and on race number 5, he goes from P10 to P7 on the first lap, and then within 5 minutes he's P4, and now he's the de facto leader. But he's only got 6.5 minutes, David. This could be where all the difference could be made, because he's not going to need to have so much fuel, but he's got to keep it in. He's got to keep it in contention. If he can keep in within 60 seconds, Chris Butcher, Matt Richards, obviously depending on where Joey Vrolijk ends up, I think Max Spooner could get a top 5 finish at the very, very least this evening.
100% Max Spooner into the pits just now, but yeah, I think he's guaranteed a top 5 finish. At the pace that he's got, he was getting caught hand over fist by Chris Butcher and Matt Richards there, but it doesn't matter because they're effectively going to be in probably 8th, 9th or 10th position, which is just absurd to think about. So on the podium, again, this is all just absolute speculation right now. It could very well be Lewis McGlade, Daniel Handover and Sean King. And that is the unlikeliest podium I think we could have.
Well, looks like Max Spooner is going to make... Well, let's see what his pit stop lap time is. Right, he's safe. Max Spooner is safe. Joey Vrolijk, Sandro Ballesteros is in the pits, so probably his first one. It might have been for track limits, as Max Spooner is now he's in there for quite a considerable amount of time. Has he got damage on the Aston? Is my biggest concern here, because that's 48.8 seconds that Max Spooner has spent in the pit. Sandro Ballesteros 43.2. So I think what they've done is that they've mitigated the circumstances and decided, David, to play it smart.
Yeah, and that's what it's looking like with, we're now down to the business end of this race now. I think that's exactly what it is. And I don't want to be the person to go and have to tell Chris Butcher and Matt Richards.
Well, that's not down to me.
Nor me. I'm not getting involved in that one.
That's why we're commentators, mate. But Chris Butcher, and again, we're at even Stevens. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure to put your vote in for Daft Driver of the Day to eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk to put your votes in for who is going to be our Daft Driver of the Day. And if it comes to a casting vote, what will happen is that myself and David will have to make the casting vote. Right, a big thank you to Mike Yao from Simply Race. So, it's 1 out of 3, and it is the lightning strikes twice once again for Joey Vrolijk. He will get a post-race 60-second penalty, but Matt Richards had a lag spike, which meant it showed up at 29, same with Chris Butcher, so those two are in the clear. So they've had separate stopwatches just in case. So Joey Vrolijk for the second race in succession. It's not... Chris Butcher's time was actually was absolutely fine according to Mike Yao. So, so Butcher and Matt Richards, David, have been given the green light to go into battle.
This is awesome though, because obviously it's terrible for Joey Vrolijk, right? It's horrible to see that happen to him, but oh my God, game on! 20 minutes left to go, and what a fight we have got with these two. It is nothing but an absolute dogfight right now, and they are going to be relishing this right now. Chris Butcher has got all of the pressure in the world on his shoulders right now, because that McLaren looking so smooth as they come across the back of Ben Hetherington there. Oh, there's contact again between Richards and Butcher going into the back of him. Oh man, this is going to be a long 20 minutes.
22 minutes and 21 seconds as they go into Ramata. Oh my goodness, if you wanted tender hooks racing action, forget Lamar. Adria has really cranked the volume up to 11, in the words of the great heavy metal band Spinal Tap. But Butcher and Richards, they have been duelling all the way through this season. It is 2 wins apiece. And the biggest thing here, David, is that once the victory's settled, someone will have bragging rights. And I'm going to bet my money on not being able to call a winner in this one, because it is too close to call.
Oh, come on, live a little, Alex. I'm 100%. I'm saying it's going to be Chris Butcher. In fact, no, I'm going to... After everything happens in the last 15 minutes, Max Spooner is going to win this race.
So you're putting your faith in Team Texaco. Well, let's see if the dominoes fall in the right way.
I was more implying that all hell is about to break loose.
That sounds like a manga movie, and you know it. But yeah, it's just been captivating as we go on board the top of the rear windscreen of Chris Butcher's BMW M6 GT3 ahead of Matt Richards. They go into the Ramata gap between them. Ed Porter likes to change of mind there, mate.
Nothing like changing your camp halfway through.
Yeah, I was going to say, which one have you put on now? But I digress. Look at how racy Matt Richards is. He's chomping at the bit. He just wants to get past. As this is just too tight to call. Right, 41 seconds. Now I'm just wondering, has everyone pitted, David? That is the key thing I need to know here. But obviously Joey Vrolijk is the only one that gets a 60-second post-race penalty. That's
from my calculations, it looks good. I think everyone's pitted that needs to.
okay. That's fine. So that puts my mind at ease. Obviously, we'll have a confirmation on that very, very shortly. So 15 seconds on the clock remaining as the pit stop window will close. Everyone has served their pit stop window with their pit stops, which are mandatory in this race, as we will now have, as these two starts across the line, we are into the final third. 20 minutes on the clock remaining. Chris Butcher leading from Matt Richards. That's 1 and 2 at the moment here in Italy.
Alex, I want you to have a look at Matt Richards and the way he's driving that McLaren. We were on about it through the first stage of the race, how smooth and precise he was. Not anymore. That's out the window. He is absolutely ragging that thing to the edge right now, throwing the back end out and really, really just power sliding his way around.
You were right there. He's been trying to go through Cabanella, and he had to correct the opposite lock coming out of the corner as they go through into Tondantino. Full steering lock applied, and the back end starting to break traction up to third, up to fourth gear, and just how much brake pressure is he actually putting through that brake pedal, and down into first, then up into second, 75 miles an hour, building the speed again. But you can just see how much this McLaren is being hustled by Matt Richards. He is hell bent on getting one up on Chris Butcher, but Butcher doing a great job just parking the BMW where it needs to be at exactly the right time.
Yeah, and for me, again, just watching the way that both Chris Butcher and Matt Richards are driving, this is one of the drives of the championship from Matt Richards right now, to put all that pressure consistently on Chris Butcher. He'll fall behind, or he should be slower through certain parts of the circuit because of that tail end whipping out. I mean, he's all over the place into brakes, and yet he can still keep on the back of Chris Butcher.
Well, actually, I've been sent photographic evidence thanks to Mike Yao. Butcher was okay because when they actually park in the pits, it actually counts up the seconds, a bit like IndyCar, like they have on their air boxes. And 30 for Chris Butcher. Joey Vrolijk 2 seconds short, 28 on the front windscreen in the McLaren. So Drillers Esports, Joey Vrolijk, I think, is going to be kicking himself for the second time in a row that it has happened. And that means that Dutch driver, just 18 years of age, based out of just outside of Rotterdam, he's got a lot of work to do and wants to get into the top 3 by the end of the season.
Yeah, small mistake and huge consequences. So, I mean, that essentially destroys his race, puts him away down to 9th position behind Bradley Brocky's at this current pace. I mean, he might be able to pull a couple of positions out because Max Spooner and Bradley Brocky's currently fighting it out just now. But yeah, huge error, and for it to happen a second time, that's some fundamental questions going to have to be asked.
Right, for those actually wondering at home, how can you actually vote for the DAF Driver of the Day? Well, if you have a look in the description, make sure that you vote for the DAF Driver of the Day. It is a public vote, so please email eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk. You have just 12 minutes to do so, to put in your votes for the DAF Driver of the Day. The voting will close with 5 minutes on the clock to go here at Adria International Racing. And what a dynamite battle at the front we are having. Chris Butcher leading Matt Richards by absolutely nothing here at the moment. So in many respects, I think I can see this going all the way down to the checkered flag here. It's about who is going to want to be the bravest of the brave and keep that car in front of the other and get bragging rights, because these two between them have each won 2 bottles of Copperfield London Dry Gin, and someone wants to make it a 3rd this evening.
And let's hope one of these two actually does make it a 3rd. So we've got some more back markers coming up ahead of Chris Butcher and Matt Richards as they go through turn 1. And Chris Butcher, the closing speed that McLaren has got on the BMW is absolutely absurd. On the straightaways, he is just lightning quick. And it's this corner here that he just loses all sort of traction and squirrels under braking and tries to get that car around. Much smoother and much more refined that time round. But wow, what a race we've got going on.
Yes, indeed we have. So, in many respects, that's going to be a case of, how is that absolutely possible? We'll find out very soon. We have just over 15 and a half minutes at the moment. Butcher leads from Richards. McGlade in 3rd place. Vrolijk in 4th, Handover in 5th, King in 6th, Spooner in 7th, Rockies, Ballesteros and Daniel Hyde rounding out the top 10, with obviously Phil Webb and the unfortunately retired Ross McGregor after what happened earlier on. Martin Buchan, Louis Stewart and Ben Hetherington are the only 3 drivers still competing in the SYNETIQ BMW Series after Anthony Jordan called it a day after probably what was when he came in for his pit stop, and then all of a sudden he went straight to DNF. Whether he called time on it, it's not easy, as that's I think that might have been, not too sure, that might have been Dan Hyde getting out of the way of both McGlade and Vrolijk. And by my estimation, if the race was to finish right now, David, Joe Vrolijk would be behind Sandro Ballesteros, putting in P9, and that would mean that Handover would be 5th, King 4th, King would be 5th after his topsy-turvy race, let's say. And here is Matt Richards, as they have got a back marker, and this time it is a GT3 car.
That's Bradley Brockies. Oh my goodness me, what a dive through up the inside. Now it's going to cost him daily around the outside. Tries to go Matt Richards, and all hell, like I promised, is breaking loose. How the heck they got through that without any sort of damage whatsoever, I will never know, Alex.
I'm just going to take a line that you said at Le Mans. Did I just see that happen?
That was like 4 cars that they all just weaved through like a hot knife through butter. Amazing, amazing stuff. Bradley Brockies lives to tell the tale as well. And Matt Richards still right on the tail end of that BMW of Chris Butcher. And, you know, we sometimes say, you know, he's just sitting on the back bumper waiting to take his opportunity. No, he's not. No, he is biting every single step of the way, nibbling at that BMW and not giving him any peace whatsoever.
Yeah, I think you're very, very right there, David. And it was always going to be a case of wait and see what would happen, and we are getting it right now. I cannot believe that this action has been just we wanted to give the drivers a test this season, and mamma mia, and that's quite pertinent considering, considering what has transpired so far.
Wow, right, I think tyres are starting to play a bit of an issue. I think both Chris Butcher and Matt Richards starting to bubble the tyres a little bit, because Butcher making some very uncharacteristic mistakes here. He's feeling the pressure, and that car's starting to slide in. He had to take a way more aggressive line into the corner there than he normally would have, and Matt Richards is absolutely loving it. I think he smells blood and is pushing even harder right now.
You're very right there. I think he's after some IMB Vod Bul Racing blood at the moment, that being of the jugular of Chris Butcher. So it's not been easy by any stretch of the imagination. But I must give plaudits where it's due, in the respect that Chris Butcher has been hanging on, and the gap still is about half a second. It's literally been like this all the way through the race, and I still cannot believe that it is still going on. It is just ridiculously close between these two.
Yeah, we haven't really had much to talk about for the SYNETIQ BMW. We mentioned it was going to be a fairly straightforward one for Martin Buchan, and that has been the case. But Louis Stewart doing a wonderful job of holding on to that second place in the SYNETIQ BMWs. And Ben Hetherington, although he's another 2 laps down, more importantly, that's a 3rd place for him, so he'll be happy with this one. But your race leaders now coming on to the back of Max Spooner and Sean King as well, and those 2 are not slow drivers.
Yeah, in many respects, it's so difficult to sort of try and look into every single situation, and I don't know why these 2 just have not given any quarter. They have not let up. It has just been relentless all the way through this race. I mean, we have just over 11 minutes of it to go, David, and I just cannot sort of see what's happened. But we have our first vote for the driver of the day. So you have until 5 minutes remaining on the clock still to go in order for that to happen. So just over 5 3/4 minutes, and people can still vote for the DAF driver of the day. Email eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk to put in your votes ahead of this ahead of what's going to transpire. But still, with just over 10 minutes to go, David, I don't know what can happen between these two. Sean King up the inside of Max Spooner there.
I'm not going to lie, I am absolutely loving it. So great move there. That's Max Spooner, I think, is actually taking the place from Sean King there. That was what it was on the last lap round. Is Sean King going to try and outbrake him in turn one? Not going to happen. Max Spooner looks like he's going to take that place, Alex. And yeah, that's an awesome drive. Max Spooner, completely different driver from the Max that we've seen over the championship so far. And long may this continue.
Yeah, very, very much the case. So that was a very good run from Max Spooner. As again, we're into the last 9 minutes and 40 seconds. Butcher's still leading. He's holding on with just the tips of his fingers. I just can't. I cannot believe my eyes. I cannot believe my eyes. I can't believe what I've seen all the way through the last couple of hours. And in many respects, that Chris Butcher to just put the BMW exactly where he needs to keep Matt Richards at bay. Richards is trying to drive the wheels off the McLaren, and he's not allowing Chris Butcher to try and get some daylight between himself and the other vehicle in order to try and steal away the win.
It's one of those races though where you're as a race fan you're absolutely loving it. As commentators, it's difficult because obviously our job is to describe the whole race throughout the whole field, but how can you take your eyes off of what is going on with just about 10 minutes left to go to 11 minutes left to go in the session, and you feel like if you take your eyes off this, something is gonna explode.
Yeah, I don't know when that's going to happen. It's just like someone's pulled the pin on the grenade, and you don't know when that is going to happen in any way, shape or form. So I'm not a betting man. With 8 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock, I still can't give you that answer.
It's also amazing how serious we've gotten over the past hour. It started off jovially and we were excited. It was a great race start and things, and it was looking like Matt Richards was pulling away a little bit, and then suddenly Chris Butcher got ahead after the pit stops, and now suddenly the tone has changed very, very much. Matt Richards does not like this. Matt Richards does not like being in P2. You can see that from the way that he is absolutely throwing that McLaren all around the track here at Adria, and we are set up for one heck of a finish.
Very, very true. Right, we've had another couple of votes in for DAF Driver of the Day. You've got, what is it, about a couple of minutes left? 2.5 minutes to go. We've had some more votes, so please send your emails in to eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk. Actually, make that another one. So you've got, what is it, 4 minutes past 9. You've got until 6 minutes past 9 UK time to make up your mind. And if there's any votes after 6 minutes past, then those votes will not count. 6 minutes and 57 on the clock remaining. It is still even Steven between Butcher and Richards. Now, the one thing that we haven't really talked about is how unfortunate Ross McGregor has been in this race, because obviously with what happened earlier on. And this is a talking point I want to bring up here, David, because you said about the possibility of Vrolijk being involved, but he was a bit too far back. But then it was like the two Astons just decided to converge on one another, and it just completely compromised Ross McGregor. And, you know, it was like I was really looking forward to seeing how Ross was going to, and we've seen it before in the Team BRIT Summer Series, you know, he won one of the races there. And I was really looking forward to seeing both him and John Munro working together and sort of tag teaming the whole of the field. But it's been a very different story. I mean, from your perspective, what did it look like to you? Because I couldn't really make heads or tails of that situation.
Yeah, it was for me. It was just blatantly one driver had connection issues. The way that these sims struggle with that. Excuse me a minute there, Alex. Says we've got side-by-side action for the lead. Chris Butcher struggles on the exit of a corner there, and Matt Richards tries to throw it up the inside, and he is absolutely biting at the ankles of Chris Butcher now. Oh my goodness me, that just lit itself up Chris Butcher went too deep into a corner, and Matt Richards saw a glimmer of an opportunity there and absolutely tried to seize on it there. Wow, that just ignited completely out of nowhere.
I did tell you about mushroom cloud explosions, and that nearly was one right there. So we are fast approaching the last 5 minutes as they cross the stripe with 5 minutes and 15 seconds on the clock remaining. So the DAF driver of the day voting will conclude in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's it. DAF driver of the day has been decided by a public vote, and it has been unanimous. I will get to telling you that decision as we've now had Ben Hetherington in the pits again. So that's
Ben's really been struggling with the damage with that car. He gets going again, but yeah, it's been a difficult one, but it doesn't matter. Still takes some good points away from the night.
Yeah. So now I'm just sort of making some calculations here. Now Joe Vrolijk is 38 seconds off of the leader, give or take. With a 60-second post-race penalty, it will drop him behind Bradley Brockies. So Brockies will go up to P7, which I think I'm not too sure, I think that might be his best finish so far this season. Because both he and Sandro Ballesteros have been doing wonders. They've been practicing hard behind the wheel of the 720S GT3. But this battle, I think you can now see that Chris Butcher, I'm wondering, David, the gap is now starting to extend. And look at the lap time. It was a 1:13.495 by Chris Butcher. Matt Richards was over two tenths slower. The gap is now going.
Don't be fooled by it, Alex. Don't be fooled by it.
I know, but the thing is that there is only so much fight in a driver until they think, you know what, it's been really, really difficult. This race has really, really pushed these two drivers, and it is about who wants it the most. And I think that with that backmarker moment with Ben Hetherington, that could have really decided the race, possibly in the favour of Matt Richards. But now Matt Richards realises he's now got to try and conserve the tyres. He goes sideways, and I think that is the brake that Butcher needed. That was, going through Variante Po, that was what happens when you are pushing that car too hard. And now the gap is over 9/10 of a second, so Chris Butcher is going through into De La Fonte, and I'm wondering, was that mistake just that looked to be an unforced error? Matt Richards has been on his back bumper all the way through this race, and we come to the last 2 minutes and 45 seconds here at Adria, which will give us probably about another 2 or 3 laps by my reckoning. That, I think, has just given Chris Butcher the opportunity, as he's now going to lap Martin Buchan. And Martin gets out of the way once again. So yeah, I think that was the break that Butcher needed, that he kept hanging on. Richards kept pushing, and Richards then had one of those mistakes that he didn't want to make at that particular moment in time, especially as it was so close to the end of the race.
Yeah, horrible moment there for Richards, but watch how quickly that gap is going to come down. This is where Richards starts to catch up. It was 9/10 of a second. I guarantee by the end of the lap it's down to about 4/10 of a second. And he goes in deep again, makes it work much better this time, does Richards, and that gap might even be quicker. It might be down to about 3/10 of a second, 4/10 of a second, but it's definitely not over yet.
Yeah, you can just see that was through Variante Po and going through into Quadro Uno, that the back end stepped out. He caught it, but I think the damage might have been done, because now we are going to have 2 laps. Because now we've got 1 minute and 38 on the clock still to go here at Adria, as there is Martin Buchan. He's going to come across the line with about a minute and 25 seconds, I think. 1 minute 26 as he crosses the line, so he'll have this lap to go. But I think Butcher was looking for that daylight at the end of the tunnel, and Matt Richards just handed it to him on a silver platter.
Yeah, he certainly did. That's not what you want to do towards the end of the race, but you know, it's that whole thing, Alex, of go hard or go home. What's the point in sitting in second place? Yes, it's points, but if you've got the opportunity, if you've got the chance, especially with how quickly Richards was closing in on Butcher, you absolutely have to try it. And it's just one of the perils of pushing these cars so hard. But look at that, there we go. In an instant, it all comes back, because a back marker brings Butcher and Richards together for the final lap.
Oh my goodness, that Right, okay. So I think, this is the final lap. The gap now has gone down from about 9/10 to about half a second. Right, it is about who wants it the most. Who is wanting to put it all on the line? They're going to la mata. Richards getting very close on the brakes, on the back bumper of Butcher, as we see Martin Buchan now going to be starting his final lap. As I think that was Max Spooner I just spotted down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. He's on course for what will effectively be a net P5, because obviously Jerry Vrolijk is 42.9 seconds off of the leader at the moment, which continues to be Chris Butcher. But now the time is at 0. David.
How's your nerves, Alex? Because mine's are absolutely shot.
Mine are spiked through the roof like no tomorrow as we go through Quadra Uno for the final time into the left at Quadra Due. Just 3 more corners to go through the double left at Delgado. As Butcher's just nailing the apexes. He wants this bad enough. He's got a taste for it, and he can smell it now as they come through. De La Fonte, the winning streak of Matt Richards. Will it be broken? He cowers out of the final corner. And in the GT3 Challenge, it's IMB Vod Bul Racing's Chris Butcher that wins here after what was an hour of spectacular dueling between him and Matt Richards, being coloured or split by just over 0.4 of a second. Looks like Martin Buchan has done it again. It's 5 for 5 for the number 35 in the SYNETIQ BMW Series. And he's going to win by over 41 seconds ahead of Louis Stewart. Looks like Lewis McGlade has taken third. Jerry Vrolijk will cross the line in fourth. But as a result of his post-race penalty, here comes McGlade. Across the line comes the number 33. That's good points. 30 points for Marloe Watch Company Racing by the super sub that is Lewis McGlade, stepping in the shoes of John Munro. Jerry Vrolijk, where is he now? Has he crossed the line? Because this is where the telling point is going to be happening. He's crossed the line. That will put Handover into P4. And by my calculations, I think it's pretty close. What was the gap between Jerry Vrolijk and Max Spooner, David?
Well, Max Spooner was a lap down. So I think he might hold on to 7th place. I think Max Spooner is going to finish in P5.
Yeah, so there is Max Spooner. Now that is very, very odd. Now, why is he pulling into the pits? Is he going to cross the line and then just park it because he's meant to be doing a slow? I mean, that is the best result for a Team Texaco car, and yet he's doing a Michael Schumacher. You remember that when the Ferrari pitted him on the final lap?
Because he's 1 lap down. I think he'd already passed the his Mantis finished, so I think he's already crossed the line. So
effectively, Martin Buchan has done 5 for 5. The clean sweep continues in the SYNETIQ BMW Series. Daniel Handover will take 4th, Max Spooner in 5th, Jerry Vrolijk will take 6th as a result. I think Bradley Brockies in 7th, Sean King, Sandro Ballesteros, Daniel Hyde, and Phil Webb round out the top 11. But I think I need to get things sort of wrapped up a bit quickly here. So I'm now going to head down and speak to our runner-up from Zansho Simsport. After a great battle after the last hour, I'm going to have a chat with the number 44 of Matt Richards.
Excellent, thank you very much there, and we'll look forward to it, Alex. What a race, though. What a final couple of laps we had there. Just very quickly run you through the top 10 then. Chris Butcher, Matt Richards, Lewis McGlade, who's super sub in for John Munro in P3. Joey Vrolijk provisionally finishes 4th, but again subject to a post-race penalty. Daniel Handover in 5th place, Max Spooner in 6th, Bradley Brockies in a fantastic 7th place there, Sean King in P8, Sandro Ballesteros in P9, Daniel Hyde in P10, Philip Webb finishes in P11, and that is your GT3 cars.
Right, so in the interview booth with me, at Rip, that was one of the tightest finishes we have had all season. You and Chris going at it like no tomorrow. No one was giving quarter. How are you feeling right now? I know it's disappointing for a second, but after such a monumental battle between you and Chris, that has really been one of the standout battles of the season.
Pretty disappointed, to be honest. I don't know whether that came across at all, but you just couldn't really race the whole race. Chris couldn't do anything to overtake me in the first half, and I couldn't do anything to overtake him in the second half. It was close, but I mean there's no real opportunity to do anything, and to be put behind him because of another game issue with the pit stop timing difference practice is just a little bit disappointing, really.
No, I completely understand. But Matt, we go to Speedway next week, next Friday for round 6. Is that a track that you like? Because that's going to be a hard and fast one.
No, I hate Fuji, to be honest, with a passion. But the McLaren should be good there, so hopefully we can capitalise on that.
Right, Matt, thank you very much, and all the very best of luck for next week in Fuji.
Cheers.
Right, next up we will speak to our race winner for GT3. Let's bring in IMB Chris Butcher. Well, just wait for just a moment. So, well, Chris, a third bottle of Copperfield London Dry Gin will be winging its way to you next week. That was a race and a half for you guys, wasn't it?
Tell you what, it feels like that was probably one of the best drives of my career, to be honest with you. It was really intense, you know. In the first half of the race, I was glued to the back of Matt, and then in the second half, he was glued to the back of me. You know, the pressure was just completely unrelenting. But yeah, it was really fun, and glad I could make the top step again.
So the BMW came really, really good at this track. Obviously, it was a bit of an equal struggles at Le Mans. How do you think it's going to work for you in Fuji in a week's time?
I think we're probably going to struggle with Fuji. You know, there's a really long straight there, and we know that plays massively to the McLaren's advantage. I mean, at least it's not an entire track of straights, so it shouldn't be a 3-second deficit. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough to get ahead of Matt there.
Well done, Chris. Congratulations on your third win of the amount at Fuji.
Thanks.
Right, okay, we'll bring in our Lewis McGlade, Mr. Super Sub for Marloe Watch Company Racing, rounding out the final step of the rostrum. Lewis, many congratulations first of all.
Thank you. So,
obviously, we knew that you were, I think you were one of the latest of the substitutions that we've had. Obviously, Dan Kell wasn't able to make it because he had other commitments. He stepped in. How is it out there for you, mate?
Hot. It was very, very hot. To be fair, like pace-wise of the car, we were like Ross and John, who had done obviously the setup work prior to the round. Like they'd built a very nice car. I'm not really a GT3 driver, nor really much of a racer, so I got the call up of, you know, why not? Just go on, have a go. And then qualifying was pretty disappointing. I wasn't happy with 6th. There was more pace in the car, but you know, you take it. And then the start was bizarre. And then I obviously dropped it on lap 5 into the wall at T1, which was really embarrassing. Outside of that, though, it was a pretty good race. Joey was very quick on the second stint, kept me company. Obviously, it was about 2 seconds back, but never let that gap go bigger than 2 seconds. And I was really pushing as well. So it was an interesting experience.
Well, thank you very much for taking part this evening, Lewis, and obviously, which returns on the 18th. Thank you very much for taking part, and congratulations on your place on the roster.
No worries, thank you for the broadcast. I'll see you soon.
Cheers. Right, okay, to wrap this up, we are going to bring all 3 of our drivers on the SYNETIQ BMW Series podium at once. And firstly, I want to speak to the man that has literally had no challenges at the moment, apart from Christian Kelly, who wasn't here this evening. Martin Buchan, 5 from 5 here at Adria. How do you do it?
I've got a good ring to it though, doesn't it? 5 out of 5, and I'll make it 8 out of 8, hopefully. I don't know.
I hope you've been tapping a wooden.
I have, mate.
But a very different challenge from Le Mans last time out. But what was the BMW like to handle around here at Adria?
It's alright. I mean, it's a heavy car, it doesn't stop, it doesn't go. Wears out its tyres like after 5 laps. You get 2 laps of good pace and then dies, and then I don't know. I mean, it was just more a case of keeping myself occupied, and I set out like, don't get involved with the GT3 guys because they'll be a menace on this track. And yeah, just had to try and I just made a competition for myself though, just like, right, try and keep a consistent pace, and yeah, it happens.
Indeed. Well, Martin, all the very best of luck at the food. Let's speak to, no worries, let's speak to both Louis Stewart and Ben Hetherington. Boys, congratulations. You're both on the podium here in Adria. Well done. How are you both feeling? Louis, let's start with you.
I'm feeling really happy with that. I was pretty consistent, despite all the oversteer and a little sprinkle more of oversteer. I quite enjoyed that, but full credits to Ben. He's on the server all the time. I don't know how he does it, to be honest. We put so much commitment in, and he fully deserves the podium, so...
well done. Congratulations, Louis. Second this time out at Adria, and we'll see you next weekend.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Ben Hetherington, first time I got the opportunity to talk to you, young man. Well done.
Yeah. Well, I've only done it because the number of people, well, there was only 3 left, but I think I'm the only person here using a controller.
That's what makes this achievement even more outstanding, young man. But obviously that now helps you in terms of trying to close the gap on both Louis and also Christian, who wasn't here, and also Dave wasn't able to compete with us this evening. Your progression that has been noticed by both myself and David has been really, really good. I mean, how are you adapting to the car? Because obviously you're basically part of the Powerball Left C squad for both Clyde and for also Scott. How have you found it with trying to make your adaptations as you're switching to each track using the controller?
It's just really all about trying to be as precise as possible round the corners, which is more difficult on the controller than it is on a wheel.
Fair enough. Well, Ben Hetherington, congratulations on the podium. We'll see you next week in Fuji.
See you then.
Right. I have one more announcement to make before I actually need to shoot off, so I will now... so, David, we have a unanimous driver of the day. I won't be able to interview him because I've got to shoot, so I will leave the rest of it in your capable stuff. So the DAF driver of the day for Adria with what is effectively 3/5 of the vote. Your DAF driver of the day is from eTeam BRIT. It's 2 in a row. Not for Sandro Ballesteros this time. Bradley Rockies is your DAF driver of the day. So, with that being said, David, I'm going to leave it all to you, buddy, and I'll let you close out the show. And good night from me here in Belgium. Reality speaking here, and I'll leave you with in the capable hands of Mr. David Christie. Good night, David. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Thank you very much. It's all right for some, getting an early night. Right, let's head down to the eTeam BRIT channel, and we'll go and grab Bradley Brockies and try and bring him up into the interview room. So apologies about that. Thank you, Bradley. Apologies for the interruption there. You have won our DAF driver of the day. Congratulations, my friend.
David, it was quite a fun one out there today.
I was going to say it was at times it was good fun because there was, you know, a cracking little 4-car battle going on through the race, but then you had the leaders coming through you had the SYNETIQ BMWs that you had to try and get past. What was it like trying to stay composed?
Yeah, it was quite hard. So getting past the BMW SYNETIQ series was quite a struggle, especially coming up to, I seem to be very unlucky coming up behind them at the chicane, which was an incredibly hard place to pass them. The leaders I let past on the main straight, so that wasn't too bad.
Excellent. So, I mean, it was a fantastic race, and obviously you were in that ding-dong battle. You're doing really, really well in the championship, and obviously tonight does a wonderful, wonderful job for you. You came into tonight sitting in 9th place, and that's going to boost you up significantly with the amount of folk that weren't taking part tonight. What do you think your chances are for the rest of the championship? Have you got a place in mind for it, or are you just wanting to see what happens?
Me and Sandro had a talk the other day more for the team standings. We set ourselves the goal to try and get above Team BRIT, so to try and get eTeam BRIT above Team BRIT.
a little bit of friendly rivalry.
No.
I love it. Right, thank you very much. Congratulations then for taking tonight's staff driver of the day, Bradley Brockies. We'll see you next time out. And that is us then, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much for joining myself, Dave Christie, and the one, the only, the legend that is Mr. Alex Goldschmidt, who is currently over in Genk in Belgium, getting a nice early night's sleep where he is working as the real-life cartoon commentator over there. And we will see you next time round for more awesome action from the eTeam BRIT Racing Series. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next time.